Hey superstars, welcome to the Get Rich Without Being a Bitch podcast. I am Vanessa Shaw, your host for the journey that we're about to embark upon. Listen, if you're in business for yourself, you want to enjoy financial empowerment, live life on your terms, and frankly, live a much richer life, you are going to be in the right place because we are going to be challenging stereotypes, breaking through glass ceilings, giving you the tips, tools, and strategies that can help you be a better version of you, build life and business on your terms. So be sure to subscribe because you are not going to want to miss an episode. Go to your favorite podcast platforms on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe now. And I can't wait to start the journey with you. Hey, superstars, welcome back to another episode of Get Rich Without Being a Bitch. I'm going to dive into a little bit of a different topic today and still a really important one, of course. But this is all about, comes back to kind of our relationship with money. And I know that that is a big topic. It's a big foundation for, frankly, all of the work that we do. I've shared in the past my own, frankly, dysfunctional relationship with money, kind of like a love-hate relationship. Loved it when it was there, hated it when it wasn't, the stress that came with money. And it can be easy, fast forward all these years to think, well, I've got it all figured out. It's all easy and swimming now and, kind of over these things. And first and foremost, let's have a reminder that this is a journey. It really is a journey. I've been on this journey for years. Some of you are just starting it and we're shining the light on some things. Some of you have been on this journey for a while as well. And it takes a lot of practice and patience and being kind to ourselves as we go through the up level. But I want to come back to this piece around that relationship with money and specifically the emotions around money. Because way back when, it feels like a long time ago, when I was first diving into this work, I realized that I just had so many negative emotions around money. It did not bring me joy. It did not bring me excitement. It was definitely an area of stress, of guilt, of anxiety, of shame, of overwhelm, of feeling, stupid, frankly, at times. Like, why was it all such a mystery to me? And so my emotions around money were primarily negative. As I say, apart from those times when, money seemed to be flowing more easily or I had more of it. And, I still probably wasn't feeling that at ease with it, but the stress levels were just down for a while until they came back again. But my primary emotions were negative. And what I found is, as I was starting to dive into this work for myself, it meant that I had to come face to face with certain things. I could no longer bury my head in the sand, which was really my strategy for a long time. Kind of like, if I don't look at it, it won't be as scary. And of course, we know what happens is we don't look at it and it's not scary for a while and we get some relief until it is scary because there's something happening, right? There's a breakdown happening. And so it meant that I had to get comfortable looking at my numbers first and foremost, right? Starting to look at my P&L at least monthly to see what was actually happening and to understand, to not deny these things. And every time I would think about, I had to look at my numbers, do something, honestly, all of that anxiety came back up again. Because my emotional nervous system was set that way, right? It was like that was the trigger, the story around money, all of the assessments that I made of myself. And the minute I would start to do anything around money, even those things that made logical sense, my nervous system was not keeping pace. And so I would find myself getting triggered, feeling really, really uncomfortable. And I would find myself with two choices. Either I avoid doing the thing so I get some temporary relief, which, believe me, I have done many times over the years. It wasn't like I said, oh, I'm going to fix this now, and then it was all perfect. There were a lot of avoidance strategies, right? Or I have to start to get comfortable and be with that discomfort so that my nervous system can start to calm down and I can feel safer again, right? And my nervous system isn't so triggered. So I want you to know this as you go on this journey. And this will come up in many, many places because money flows through pretty much every aspect of our life and business. We live in a world where we need money to put food on the table, right? We need it to put a roof over our heads. We need money coming into our business to keep the lights on, to keep the bills paid, to be able to invest into our business, to pay ourselves. I mean, all of these things. Money touches so many things. And so there, are many opportunities for us to make improvements. And equally so, if we keep ignoring it because we feel a discomfort with it, it is going to keep catching our attention. And what I have found to be true is that those lessons with money get bigger and bigger and bigger until you start to pay attention. That they will keep grabbing your attention. So interestingly enough, let's just go back to some of the places where your nervous system might not be aligned and you get triggered, you get flooded, you feel stressed, you want to, hide, do something else, distract yourself. Many different situations. So for me, the big one was looking at the numbers. That was one that I just didn't know what I was looking at. I had a story that I wasn't good at math. I felt flooded just seeing all this black and white data. I didn't know what I was looking for. Again, I feel like it was a foreign language, and I would become so flooded with those emotions that again, it was clouding what I could see and sort of reinforcing the story. If I had to have a meeting with my accountant or my bookkeeper, same thing, right? Those were places where I could easily procrastinate because I felt so uncomfortable. And in those relationships at the time, I was feeling, intimidated. I was feeling inferior. I was feeling lacking. It was actually important for me at one point to change my bookkeeper and accountant because I realized that their approach that was highly lacking in empathy back when really didn't help me to reprogram my own nervous system. All it was doing was feeding into those insecurities and making me feel less than. So I actively sought out, somebody that I felt was far more approachable, that she would explain things in simple terms. I could even literally sit in front of her at the time. I remember being in her office and saying, oh my gosh, I need to take a break. Like this is like a new area for me. I'm feeling flooded. And when that happens, I can no longer think straight and this all comes out wrong. And she was totally okay with that, right? Would let me have time to have a break. Let's get a tea. Let's do something else. But there are going to be places in our business where we need to follow up with clients. Possibly you haven't got systems in place. Possibly you've got clients that aren't paying on time, that getting behind on their fees. And you've now got to have a conversation with getting their account current. That can be another place where you don't want to have the conversation because, again, that nervous system starts to go on to, hyper alert. Raising fees is a topic we cover many, many times. That raising fees and actually having that conversation, again, can bring up all of those nerves. Different investments that you might be wanting to make in your business. Frankly, having conversations as well with team members, particularly team members that aren't performing, right? Or they're resisting making some of the changes. They can start to cost you money as opposed to be helping in the business. And now we need to have a conversation with them about, how can they get back up to speed, right? And support you. Again, all of these things can get your system, your nervous system triggered. So I want to really invite you to be aware that that's likely to happen. And again, it's a journey. And B, what are some of those things, right, that can help you in the moment? These are where I come back to some of the practices of if I know that I'm going into a difficult conversation, a place where I'm talking about money, where I'm likely to get triggered, I might get flooded with emotion myself. What do I need to do to prepare myself? Often I'll call this like a grounding or a centering exercise, just where I can start to calm that nervous system. Does it help me to have a script and some things to say prepared in those situations so that I'm not actually having to think on my feet? Does it help me to have even prepared that in advance, right? And spoken into the mirror, for example. I have told so many of our clients when they're talking about raising their fees to keep practicing that sentence, to keep practicing those numbers until the numbers roll off their tongue, to say it in the mirror so that in the moment when they get nervous, they can more easily access those words. So there's lots of things that we can actually do to prep for this. So I want to tell you a story, though, of something that happened to me recently. And I was quite surprised. It was a pretty stressful situation. It's something more in my personal life, where I'm dealing with some finances in a let's say in a family situation. And I became aware that bills hadn't been paid. 2 very significant bills hadn't been paid. And I woke up to this news in the morning, and they were pretty big numbers on them. And honestly, my first reaction to this, again, I kind of got it first thing in the morning, so I'm sleepy, was it got me triggered. And where my triggering actually goes to is right now is I've made a mistake. That's actually where my triggering took me to. I was internalizing it. Oh my gosh, what have I done? It was like linking back into the, before when I'd made mistakes with money. And that's kind of where my nervous system tells me and my self-talk takes me, frankly. I then had to follow up on this to clarify. And this is kind of how this can play out, is I was then seeking information to try and find out what's happened. I'm having to look through bank accounts. Has it been paid? Has it not? It didn't look like it had been. Then it kind of did look like it had. And because I'm getting so flooded with emotion, I actually can't quite decipher what's going on. Right? I had to call in Robert, my husband, to say, I feel like I'm going crazy. But all of a sudden, I know, my nervous system is on hyper alert here. And I'm not quite trusting myself to work through this. Can I get your set of eyes on this? And again, that can be really important. Like when we've been triggered, who can we go to for some support? Because I was really doubting myself. And Robert came in and he looked at things and he said, no, you're right. That hasn't been paid. And I go back and I ask some more questions. And now I've got to sort it out. And as it happened, it wasn't my mistake. This was the thing. It wasn't my mistake. It was somebody else's, right? Somebody hadn't done what they needed to do and had created this. But the whole point here was I took it on first and foremost as mine. My nervous system has now got triggered because it's an old story. And yes, this one happens to be wrapped up in some, let's say, some more complex dynamics, right? Which was adding to the stress. And now I'm not able to kind of think straight. So I had to take a break. I had to take a break from it to say, this is not working right now. I need to sleep on this. I really need a break. I'm too flooded and I need to come back to this with fresh eyes. And I need to come back to this and start writing things down and working out how am I going to actually get this solved and who else needs to be involved. And I share that story because at the time it felt like I'd been sideswiped. It's been a long time since, right? My nervous system went on to so much hyperactivity. And yes, it was a whole bunch of things that came together. The numbers were fairly significant as well. There were lots of pieces that came into that puzzle. But all of this to say, be kind to yourself. I was able to, of course, solve it, make sure that the support was in place, make sure that there were new systems that were then put in place to ensure that this wouldn't happen again, right? So our nervous system takes a while at times to keep pace with these changes. There are still places where I feel nervous around having conversations around money. I've got to still breathe into it. I have to remember that what I'm wanting to create is much bigger. And one of my mentors, I may have mentioned this in the past, she used to have a saying that said, your desires for what you're wanting to create, that vision of where you're wanting to go to, have got to be bigger than your fears. because those fears do come up. Our nervous systems do get triggered. And most of us actually haven't been taught the skills and given the tools of how to navigate those things. And we can end up, thinking like I did. Well, there's something wrong with me. I made the mistake. This doesn't happen to other people. It's one of the reasons I want to share with you these real stories. And like this happened just in the last couple of weeks to me, so that you're not feeling alone. And it takes time to build that new muscle. You are going to feel uncomfortable, and that's actually a good thing, because in that discomfort, it means that you are growing, you are on new territories, right? So whatever those things are for you, I want you to think about, where are those areas where, yes, you still feel uncomfortable in certain money conversations, whether it's late payments, whether it's you are late in your payments. That's another place that can come up a lot. And you're avoiding having that conversation about getting current. You're avoiding discussing a payment plan, or, sharing that plan of how you're going to get up to speed, because you've been flooded, right? Your nervous system is off kilter, and you'd rather avoid than come into those conversations. But the more that you can actually practice those conversations and actually start to see that you will end up with better outcomes and it moves you further to your goals, the less amount of time you're going to spend with your nervous system, right, that's getting flooded. And if, like me, it happens, take a break, but don't avoid. Right? Come back to it. Take a break. Get some support. It's why I so believe in getting support as we're growing our businesses, and having those trusted, safe places that you can go to. That's the most important thing. The people that give you some really good advice, the people that won't judge you as well, that won't add to the stress in that moment, so that you can work through it. So I'd love to know what's resonating with you in today's episode. It is a real one, because it is going to be happening, right? Especially as you grow. There's been lots and lots of opportunities for you to practice new ways of being. And these are some of these fundamental skill sets, like foundational pieces that we need to have, that will make you a better and more capable and competent business leader, all while acknowledging that you are an amazing human being as well, and a work in progress. So as always, superstars, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platforms, and can't wait to hear from you again soon.